Welcome to another episode of Raw Built. You asked your burning questions as it pertains to short time.
Get on to the YouTube video.
All right. So that's pretty good. Give it up for my friends Kai Andrew and Tony Robinson. All right, that's all I needed y'all for, so y'all can go have a seat. No, I'm just kidding. You asked your burning questions as it pertained to short-term rentals, real estate, skincare routines, the pursuit of happiness, and entrepreneurship. And I'm so excited. I'm joined here by my good friends, Tony Robinson and Kai Andrew. How's it going, guys?
Great. Dude, I'm excited to be up here, man. Like,
this is amazing.
Is this not amazing? Is this like an amazing event? Clap it up for Rob.
I didn't even tell him to say that.
Can we also clap it up for Ashley, wherever she's at? Because I know she was like a big part of making this happen.
Ashley, where you at? Babe, I love you. Thank you for making HostCon perfect. I owe you. Okay, so we're going to be answering some questions today that were submitted by the audience, but we're also going to actually be taking a majority of questions from the audience. So we got a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Are you guys ready?
Let's do it.
All right, they throw some curveballs, so get ready. I'll start us off, all right? But before we get started, a quick thank you to today's sponsor, Host GPO. If you're looking to furnish your Airbnbs, which is a pretty standard part of starting an Airbnb, consider signing up for Host GPO. Everybody that is at HostCon and my YouTube audience, you get access to 40% off of West Elm and other major retailers like Crate & Barrel, Helix mattresses, and so much more. I use them for all of my Airbnbs. Thank you for being a platinum sponsor of HostCon and of my YouTube channel. First question, what's the worst Karen you've ever encountered, or Chad, in your Airbnb and short-term rental experience?
Dude, I had one recent. You want to go first?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
By the way, do you guys want a blanket or anything?
No.
Okay, it is
I'm
chilly
pretty
in here.
cozy. I'm all right.
This was fairly recent in our shipping container home. And it was an individual, a family. Met him from Saudi Arabia. But he was born here in the United States, from Saudi Arabia. Lots of money. He came, he stayed with his family, little kid, talked to him. And when he left, it literally looked like his luggage exploded. Dirty diapers everywhere, yogurt ground into the carpet, the rugs, and everything like that. And I messaged him right away. I was like, hey, was there an emergency? Did you bail? He's like, no, we think we left in pretty good condition. And I'm not joking. We had 4 pairs of shoes. He went and bought a bunch of towels, didn't wash them, so they're just like strewn all around the property. And basically,
Did you say he bought 4 pairs of shoes?
4 pairs of shoes that he left.
Just for the casual trip?
Yeah, so the place was basically trashed, and it looked like teenagers went in there and partied all day. And so it took...
Teenagers that wear diapers.
Well, he had a little kid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, it wasn't
Teenagers with children that wear
diapers.
diapers.
Long story short, though, it took my 2 full days of cleaning and a trip to the dump because we had 6 bags of garbage. So, because of all this stuff. So it delayed the next booking, which obviously is never good for reviews and such, but yeah, that was probably that was the worst one this year, or 2022.
All right, that's great. All right. So, hello, I'm back. All right, so come on over here, and then Kai, I need you to give me like the face, and then it'll probably be like diapers, poop, shoes, destroyed my Airbnb, and then like lots of flames for the thumbnail, okay? Okay. Right. It's just an internal note. And if I see a better thumbnail opportunity, it might...
This is interesting to see how you
How
think.
would that
It's exactly like...
right?
I don't...
Yeah.
I always
how I
hire
think.
300
Not how I
people to
think.
come watch me
Yeah.
record in my office, just for notes. Okay, what about you?
Yeah, so my wife, Sarah, you see my wife? Clap it up for my beautiful wife right there in the front. She's more involved in like the day-to-day than I am, but I don't know if this is like a Karen, but this is definitely like the worst guest that I ever had.
Okay.
And the worst part of the story is they actually stayed at my property twice. So we have a couple of properties in Joshua Tree, and after one of the guests checks out, or they're supposed to check out, our cleaner's there, they're like knocking on the door, and the guest isn't answering, right? This happens before, guests sometimes want to stay late. But this guest, it's going on for like almost an hour. Like we can't get in touch with the guests. The cleaner's knocking on the door. We're calling them. We're sending messages. Eventually they answer, and my cleaner's like, "Hey, you guys got to go." And my cleaner said that. And so let me give you guys some context. It's a 391 square foot studio, right? So it's a tiny house in Joshua Tree, very very small. My cleaner said that as they were taking their stuff out of the property, they filled up an entire minivan with all of their luggage. Right? They were only there for 2 nights. An entire minivan with all their luggage. So my cleaners already know that it's going to be like a kind of a show when they go in there. So they go in, and the place is like absolutely trashed. There's toilet paper and like dirty things like stuffed underneath the kitchen sink. There's little baggies with white residue, if you guys catch my drift. There's just a bunch of paraphernalia left across the entire property. So we're pretty sure that these people were doing illicit drugs inside of our property. And if you saw the Ring camera footage of them, you would probably assume the same thing. So whatever, we kick them out. We end up charging them like a bunch of money for their stay. And I called her afterwards. I said, like, hey, what the heck was going on? And her name was Gina Katz with a Z, C-A-T-Z. And I said, Gina, like, what the heck? I should have known that was a fake booking from the beginning, right? Like Gina Katz.
Well, it was also like 4 Z's. Cats.
Yeah, it was terrible. Anyway, I talked to Gina on the phone. We like very quick that let her know we're going to charge her, and she's yelling at me and stuff. So whatever, I hang up. Case over, deal done. A few months later, we get a different booking at a different property. And what was really weird was when the guests pulled up, we have 2 exterior cameras. They pull up in a minivan filled with a bunch of stuff, and as soon as they come out, they take a blanket, they throw it over the camera in the front, they walk around the property, they throw it over the camera in the back. So I'm like, something weird is going on, and then they immediately message me and say, hey, we're out of paper towels. So I go on, I look at the camera, I say, I think this is the same person. So I pick up the phone and I call, and guess who answers the phone?
Cats.
Gina Katz. and I'm like, Gina, I don't know if you remember me, my name's Tony. You stayed at my other property, I'm calling the cops, you need to leave. And she starts arguing with me, I hang up the phone, I call the sheriffs, they're on their way, and then my wife gets on the Ring camera, and like on the Ring camera you can like talk, and she's just like cussing out Gina Katz over the Ring camera. Luckily, Gina left. Very minimal damage that second time around, but I would say that was probably our worst guess.
Okay, all right. So it's like, here, it's paper towels, his tiny house is on fire. Why you should never book your Airbnb to Gina Katz. Or, this booking mistake lost me thousands of dollars. Yeah, okay, that's good. That's good. We'll use that. Okay, pretty good. Pretty good. Let's see. What story did I mean, there's not really a Karen, but I did have a guest recently who left the door open at my cabin and let 4 bears break into it. And she's like, you have a bear problem. I don't know if you know this, but there are bears all over the property. They're inside and they ate all of our groceries. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Did you lock the door? And she's like, well, my young son may have left the slider door open. And I was like, okay, well, I'm sorry. But luckily, honestly, the bears left it in really great condition. 5 stars. They only broke a lamp. It was amazing. Actually, they knocked down a vase, too.
Isn't it funny how guests, like, they do something wrong, but it's your property's fault?
Yeah, exactly. Like, actually, the bears left it in better condition than Gina, which I think is, like, crazy. Okay. Nick, do you want to find us another question in the audience? Oh, yeah, we got it. Okay, cool.
So, with your bookings, do you have it set up for, like, an automatic, just book without reviewing the potential guests' reviews themselves? Like where you can kind of vet and say, oh, well, this person themselves gets bad reviews from the hosts. Do you set that up, or do you maximize profit by just having automatic booking where they just they book it, you don't check and see where they're coming from and what their reviews are?
Sure. Okay, so the question is, what is our instant book policy? That can be the title card for this part right here. Instant book policy. So for me, I do have instant book set, but in order for you to book a stay on my Airbnb, you have to verify your account with a government-issued ID. And then you have to have a recommendation from a previous host who said they would host you again. In those instances, you can book my place instantly. In the other instances, you would have to send me a message and basically answer my pre-instant book questions like what brings you to town, who are you traveling with, and sometimes some people will just book, and I'll be like, hey, can you answer the questions? And they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then they'll write it out. So for me, I do have instant book, but usually if someone has a no, like if someone's not recommended by another host, you can still see the reviews. And so if they have a 5 or above, I'll just accept it for the most part. But if they have a 4.5, that means that they didn't have 5 stars across the board. So I'll go in and read the reviews. Like sometimes they'll have a 4.5, but all their reviews are good. I'll accept something like that. But sometimes they have a 4.5 and they have a good review, bad review. And then you kind of have to like read the cryptic message from the host that's like very passive aggressive. Like, Tony was a really nice guest, left paper towels everywhere, but really nice guest nonetheless. And then you're kind of like, I think that means he trashed the place. So that's my policy. What about y'all? Y'all have anything?
I have instant book turned on as well, but like none of those filters, so anyone can book my property. I'd say Gina
Living
Katz
life
is like,
on the edge.
yeah, we're a little
see.
riskier. Gina Katz is like a rare exception. I'd say the majority of people who instant book are really good guests. And two things, right? Airbnb as a platform gives preference to listings that have instant book turned on. They have very clearly stated this. So if you have instant book turned on, you will do better in the search algorithm than a property that doesn't. And then from a guest perspective, like I'm staying at an Airbnb for this event, I only look for properties that have instant book turned on. I don't want to talk to anybody, right? I just want to click a button, book my stay, and then move on. So even from a traveler's perspective, I think it's a little bit more convenient to have instant book turned on.
All right, hold on. So right here, so it's going to be like, why I let anyone book my Airbnb. Bad reviews accepted.
Yeah, I'm not as generous as you.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more conservative. Just I've had a lot of I've been doing that for 14 years, so we had a lot of like bad calls with folks that didn't have experience or fake names, which Airbnb really cracked down on. But yeah, so I have instant book on. I have a moderate to strict cancellation policy, but ours is a little bit different from Rob's. Very similar though, in the sense that you can't insta-book if they have 0 reviews. Most of my issues have come from folks who have 0 reviews or are brand new to the platform. They just don't know the policies, the unsung policies of Airbnb and short-term rentals, and they usually don't know how to keep the place nice. So I make sure it's verified, obviously, always 100%. And then if they don't have any reviews, they have to send me a message, and then I always ask them, like, hey, how familiar are you with Airbnb, and do you agree to all house rules? And usually they send a message back, I approve it, but if not, or they say something, we've actually had a couple people like, oh, he figured it out, and they canceled. I always make sure that I touch base with them, or I have my co-host touch base with those folks that have 0 reviews.
So we thought about doing that, but I don't know the exact number, but Airbnb put out a statistic about travel for last year, and the vast majority of people on their platform were first-time travelers. It was something like 60% of the people that were booking, it was their first time using the platform. So for us, just like from an operational standpoint, we thought like, do we really have the bandwidth to go through if 60% of our bookings are going to be new? So, but it is riskier. You might get a Gina Katz, but it's something you got to roll with.
All right. Pretty good so far. Okay, do we have any other questions in the audience?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
Do you guys use VRBO, Booking.com, other platforms as well, or is it just strictly Airbnb for you? And then have you seen, if you do use different booking platforms, have you seen a bigger difference in other platforms, or do you like other platforms over Airbnb? What's your personal preference on that?
When I got started, it was all VRBO and then HomeAway. And then so that's how we got started. I hated Airbnb when it first came out. And then now it's, I'd say 90%, 85% of my bookings are through Airbnb. I played with Expedia, played with Bookings. I haven't worked with them for probably 2 years now, but when I was working with them, they didn't have the best guests. They didn't vet them like Airbnb. And so whenever we had issues, it was always a longer time. It took longer to get our money or to get refunds and all that stuff situated. So we use a little bit of VRBO right now. I honestly think where we're located, VRBO is just not very popular. They do mostly entire homes, and it's geared more towards an older audience, I feel like. And Airbnb is the younger market, and so I'm doing shipping containers, unique rentals, that type of stuff that gears towards mid-20s to 30-year-olds, not the more established families. So that's my experience with them. But I've always liked VRBO. They've been pretty good. It's just a little bit of a clunkier platform than Airbnb.
Yeah, very similar for us. We're only on Airbnb and Vrbo. We started doing Booking.com, but I don't know, for whatever reason, we never finished it. I would say very similar, like the majority of our booking, and it's kind of market dependent actually, like the vast majority of our properties in Joshua Tree get booked on Airbnb. Very rarely do we get a Vrbo booking. Tennessee, it's probably like 50-50. And again, I think it's like a traveler demographic thing where Joshua Tree's, cooler for that millennial market, whereas Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, Gatlinburg, it's kind of the older demographic. So I think regardless, everyone should be on both platforms, right? Like there's no downside to being on both. Every channel manager allows you to sync between both Vrbo, Airbnb, Booking.com. So the more platforms you're on, the better. But yeah, I would say the majority of our bookings still come from Airbnb.
Yeah, I only booked 20% of Vrbo in the Smoky Mountains, and then everything else is Airbnb. I'd like to do more Vrbo. I mean, honestly, the reason I didn't do it when I started was I just felt it was a little clunkier, for sure. The interface it's not bad, it's just so different from Airbnb, and I actually like Airbnb's interface, so And the app is also really good too.
Yeah, but Verbo actually is better if you're a host. Like, I think that Verbo, if you're a host, is better because, like, for example, security deposits. Airbnb has air cover, which is like not the best thing if you're a host. It's hard to get money from a guest. On Verbo, you can actually charge your guests a security deposit, and if the guest damages your property, you don't even have to ask Verbo, you just hold that security deposit. So there are some things that Verbo does better, but Airbnb is more popular. Airbnb is definitely more intuitive as a platform.
Yeah, and if you sign up with my affiliate link to Verbo, you'll actually get $50 off your first day. Link in the description down below. I actually don't think they do affiliate links.
Yeah.
That's why I don't use them. All right, next. What's your favorite YouTube video that you've done that no one else liked?
Oh, man.
And you can't say all of them.
Yeah, I guess I got one. So my wife and I, we rehab houses as well. Like we flip houses, we do them as turnkey short-term rentals. And to me, that content is like pretty cool. Like you get to see, and like we put a lot of time into the videos. Like we'll shoot like the initial walkthrough, we'll do like a during, then we'll do the after, the big reveal. Like it takes a lot of time to do those videos. And you get to see this amazing transformation. Anytime we post those videos, they always tank. Like always tank. So people only come to us to hear about our Airbnb horror stories. No one wants to hear about how we're taking these ugly properties, turn them into beautiful
Told
properties.
you, people want to see you sad and crying in the
Totally.
thumbnail.
Yeah.
You just got to be crying in the thumbnail with flames. I've told you this.
Yeah.
the formula
I
is there.
actually have started adding flames to my thumbnails, and it works.
Feel like his house is burning down. Let's see it. That was actually one time I had a very simple video that was called like, someone burned down my tiny home A-frame. So it's like, that's the formula. Add some tiny home in there, A-frame and flames. That one was like 1 out of 10 for me. That one was one of my best performing videos because they're like, yeah, his house burned down.
I can't think of, I mean, I think I've done over 200 videos. I delisted probably half of them already because
What?
they're so
Why?
cringy. So if you guys don't know, if you guys have been following me for longer than 2 years, I started off in personal finance. I used to do a lot of finance and operations and businesses. And so nobody watched it though until I got into Airbnb and my short-term rentals. But I think usually when I'm talking about business stuff, so when I'm going through the numbers about the heavy business stuff, those stuff never do super well. Even though I do think it's the fundamentals that helps you
People
the
need to
most.
hear, right?
Yeah.
Why would you delist them though? You got to see the glow up. I leave all my worst video, like the first video I ever made is still on the platform. So I want people to see it. I want them to be like, whoa, you were bad.
I have a couple of older ones on there, but
Yeah. All my man on the street videos, I'd say, where I go around and ask people like, you know, how are you investing in the recession, or like, you know, all that kind of stuff. Those are the most fun for me to make because it really requires no planning. So that's really more for Caleb. We can go out and we can just ask people questions, mess around a bit, and then like come back. So, but I still do them, whatever. Next question. But before we get to the next question, a quick thank you to today's sponsor, TrueBooks. So if you're looking for tax strategy, tax advice, and for people to help you filing your taxes, I mean, filing your taxes is just really the minimum that you should be expecting from your CPA. A good CPA will teach you the actual laws, the strategies that help you save thousands of dollars. And in my case, TrueBooks has actually helped me save hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes in the last year. So if you're interested in really stepping up how much money you're saving every year on taxes, click the link down below and tell Matt Bontrager, the best CPA ever, that Rob Built sent you. And now back to our video. And then we'll do like the, yeah. Can you do that though? Come back, yeah. All right, great.
Isn't it cool seeing like the magic behind the scenes?
It's exactly like that every time. No, I'm just adding all that in. We don't ever do that.
Have you thought about, stepping up like your marketing efforts? And I know you have, I know you do direct bookings and stuff, but actually marketing that to really try to get more of your booking percentages off the Airbnb platform and increase your occupancy during lower periods and lower seasons.
So I think the question overall is, how are we stepping up our marketing efforts with everything going on in the economy? Yeah. Anything that you're doing specifically?
Yeah, so we actually just put a YouTube video out a few weeks ago kind of outlining our entire strategy to get more off-market bookings. So
And what's the name of your YouTube channel?
The Real Estate Robinsons with me and my wife were one of the other YouTube channels about investing in short-term rentals. So friends of ours, you know Sarah and Annette from Thanks for Visiting?
Yes, I did their
another
podcast
fantastic short-term rental podcast, but they spoke at our event, and one of the things they said was, if you think about any other business, like actual business, there is always a line on the P&L for marketing. Every business. But Airbnb is one of these platforms that has allowed people to think that they have these businesses by spending $0 on marketing. But what happens if Airbnb right now takes 3% from the hosts, right? What happens if Airbnb decides to change that number from 3 to 7, or from 7 to 15, or from 15 to 30? Like, is anyone in here doing Amazon FBA? Does anyone, just like, how much does Amazon take from FBA? Like, if you sell a product, like, is it 10%? 20, right? So imagine if Airbnb said, well, if Amazon can do it, why can't Airbnb do it? So I think all of us should have the idea that we need to get off platform. So to answer your question, like the things that we're doing, you talked about it yesterday, creating a direct booking website. We're using Boostly as well, my guy back there. But you need to do more than just have the website. You need to drive traffic to that website. So we're looking to hire an inbound marketing manager, and that person's sole focus will be driving traffic to that direct booking website. They'll be doing like long form written content, short form content on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, etc. Long form content on YouTube, reaching out to influencers, travel influencers to come stay at our property for free, to post about our property. We're setting up email marketing campaigns and then Facebook and Instagram ads as well. So that is our platform, or that's our approach to kind of drive more traffic to that direct booking platform.
I'm gonna steal all that.
Yeah.
I'm also doing
Just
all
gave me a
that.
business plan. Thanks, dude.
And just one last thing to add, like, it's significantly easier for you guys to start the direct booking website when you have like 1 or 2 listings than it is to do it when you have 20 or 30.
Totally, yes.
So even if you have 0, build it anyway. If your plan is to scale, build it now. You'll thank yourself later.
Yeah, I think the most important thing you can do right now in 2023 is collect email addresses and information from all of your guests. If I think about the tens of thousands of people that I've hosted, those are like 20,000 plus emails I could have gotten over the course of 5 years. Right. It's just crazy. Those people could be literally booking my short-term rentals directly, and I could even just probably stop even hosting on Airbnb if I had really started from the beginning. So a lot of you are starting now at the beginning, and a lot of you are on your first, second, or third listing. So get the contact. There's so many ways you can do that. You can have little QR codes on your table that says like, scan this to be added to our email list so you get a discount next time you stay at my place. That's something that's really, really, really easy. You can ask them to follow you on Instagram, right? You can have little stickers that are like a logo for your house and a little sticker that with your, at Casita Conejo, and have them put it on their thermos or have them put it on their car or whatever, right? And now they follow you and you can communicate with them that way, right? So email list is important. You can start really building your social audiences as well, but really I think the creative host will be the host that wins in 2023. And that's not just with the experiences, but that's with the marketing.
Right now, too, there's Lodgify. You can actually tie that into your calendars, and they actually have a website builder. So if you guys want to do something really cheap, do like a proof of experiment or a proof of concept, check out Lodgify. That's what we are doing right now. So all jokes aside, we're working on the back end too, setting that all up with my web development team. And so we're using Lodgify to kind of play around with it and see how that works with the direct to booking.
Just last thing on the email capture. So there's a device called StayFi, a company called StayFi, StayFi. And we're in the process of installing that across all of our properties. I think we're like 50% through our portfolio right now. But essentially what that device does is it forces people to give you their email address in order to connect to the Wi-Fi network. So that's cool because you don't only get the main person who booked their email address,
you get everybody.
You get everybody's email address that's staying at that property. So StayFi is a great way to capture those email addresses.
And then in the terms and condition, you can actually have them to agree to send you their bank account info. It's like, really All right, next question. Hello.
My question is, how do you feel about companies that sell turnkey properties, and do you think that's going to saturate the market within the upcoming years?
How do you feel about companies that sell turnkey properties to people?
Well, we sell turnkey short-term rentals to people, so.
Ooh, that's awkward, Joseph. Read the room, bro. Jeez.
So here's the thing, right? Like, you will almost always get a better return if you do the work yourself, right? If you find the property that's old, that's beat up, and you take the 3 to 6 months to renovate it, get it fully designed, et cetera, you will always get a better return. There's always going to be a percentage of people that like the asset class of short-term rentals, but don't have the time, desire, or ability to source off-market deals, manage a rehab crew, get it fully furnished and designed, and get it turnkey for short-term rentals. So I do think that there is a need for that in the marketplace. Will it saturate the market? I mean, I don't know, right? Like, saturation is such a loose term. But I do think that it is something that some folks need. But I think your bigger question, maybe I'm off base here, is just like, how do you kind of deal with that saturation? And Rob's been talking about this, but like you have to level up your game as a host. Like the last year and a half in the world of short-term rentals, we saw so many people come into this space. And literally you could throw anything up on Airbnb in 2021, you would have made a ton of money, right? But what we're seeing now in 2022 is we're coming down to a more normal level of how this industry is going to operate. And all of those folks that before were making a ton of money aren't going to make money in 2023 because they're not operating as professional hosts. So I'm not concerned about the number of listings that are coming online because I know myself as a host, I'm a professional, and I'm going to do this better than most people that are coming onto this platform.
Yeah, it's really like the bottom 50% of hosts are going to be sort of pushed out and weeded out,
Totally.
I think, in terms of effort. And then as far as like the more time you put into it, the more money you'll make, right? So I kind of want to see a show of hands here. There's two groups of people in this room. Well, I guess there's a third, but I'm going to give you the two options. Some of you have time, some of you have money, right? Can I just see who here says, I got the time to put the time into it? Okay, and then who here says, I've got the money, but I don't have the time? That's a decent amount of people, right? And so that service is made for people like that who don't necessarily want to be the all-in investor. They still have their W-2 job. They might have a very good career, but they want to have a few short-term rentals. And so it's very worth it for them to buy a turnkey property, or maybe they make a 10 or 15% return, but they're fine with that because it's still better than what they're getting with the long-term rental, right? So it just really depends on your preference. Saturation, to me, really only matters if you plan on mailing it in as a host. So if you plan on putting in a ton of time and effort and love and passion into your listing, I think you're going to be fine.
One thing I would say to that is recently there was a city, it's called Bend, Oregon, where I was looking at one of the markets I was looking at buying. They just recently created like 15 cabins that are identical right next to each other, and they were selling them off. And so in that type of scenario, I'd be careful. You start cannibalizing yourself, and that is a saturation of one distinct area. And a lot of times when somebody's building an Airbnb to sell, you gotta remember that the margins are gonna be really thin versus what Tony was saying when you put this 3 to 6 months and you do the work yourself. And when you have thin margins, it's going to be more difficult for you to ride out the tough times. So just something to consider when you're running your performance or running your projections, that you're factoring in the fact that you might be only getting between 8 to 10, maybe 15%, versus when you do a build up from the ground up or even a remodel, you could be looking in the 20s, 30s, or even 40% returns. So
Next question. Ooh, this is a tough one. I don't know. It's very complicated. It's very intricate. What is your skincare routine? What does that look like? My wife earlier was like, I hate him. He's literally glowing.
I mean, Kai's skin's like on point too, man. Like
It's true.
it's
You guys are
genetics.
yeah. So I'm happy you're asking this question because I've been excited to announce this. I'm actually dropping a course in a mastermind on my skincare routine.
Do you have an affiliate link? It's amazing. All right, well, if y'all's is really just genetics, then I'm not going to talk about mine because it is Aesop and Keels. All right, next. How do you tell your family what your job is at Christmas? That's pretty good. Do they understand like
No.
what's happening here?
My family actually literally just found out this year that I'm on YouTube. And
It's crazy, man.
I was so
And you've been
embarrassed.
YouTubing for how long?
I've been doing it it's literally been 5 years, I think next month. Yeah, so nobody knew. So now when I visit my mom quite a bit, and when I walk into their house, she has me on 2 of her TVs just playing.
That's
Because
why
she's
your
just cycling
videos
through all
always
my-
get a
she
bunch
saw
of
your
views.
face on there too. Yeah, because I've seen both of you. And she won't turn it off. And so now
Well, she's
like,
got 200 videos to catch up on, man.
I know.
Dang.
She's like an old Vietnamese, sweet old lady. And so she has all these Vietnamese, like, you know how YouTube recommends videos to you? It's all old Vietnamese songs and food shows. And then you just see my stupid face up there like,
Watch her sign up for your land hacker course, and you're like, Mom, I would have just given it to you. You didn't have to sign up.
no, I usually just say like real estate.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
Wait, so they found out why, though?
I think it was
Or
through
how?
the YouTube algorithm.
Oh, genuinely?
Yeah, generally, my aunt found it, so I have a big family, bunch of aunts and uncles. She found it, and she's kind of like the one that gossips in the family, and then told the next aunt.
I don't know
and
if
the
that's
next aunt.
gossip.
And then my mom and dad is like, "You've been doing this for how long? You didn't tell us?" And then so now they're just they're binging my content.
Yeah.
Dang, that's cool.
fantastic.
All right.
Yeah, I guess for me, so like I think my family understands that I do real estate investing, like that part they get. I think it's the content side that they
Right.
really don't understand. Like so, like Bigger Pockets. You guys know Rob's the co-host for the real estate show. I'm the co-host for the Rookie podcast. Like these are literally the #1 and #2 podcasts about real estate investing in the world. And when I got that gig, I was like it was like almost making it to the NBA, right? Like there's 8 hosts for Bigger Pockets podcast.
I mean, it's the NBA of real estate.
Of real estate investing, right? It's a big deal, right? So like I tell my parents, it's like, guys, you are not gonna believe what just happened. I am the co-host for a Bigger Pockets podcast. And they were like, what is that?
Yeah.
But you know, I mean now like they've come to our events, you know, they've seen the things that we do. And my mom is like yours, like she tells anybody and everybody about how proud she is of me. So it's kind of cool to see.
Yeah. So when the Bigger Pockets thing came out, or before it came out, I couldn't tell anybody. Like literally, like I think you might have been the only person that really knew. And so I was like holding it in, and then I was like going through like, okay, how do I do this, and what are the everything, right? All the logistics. And I remember I was going to Costco with my dad, very random memory, and he was like, "What's up? What's on your mind?" And I was like, "Well, I'm like up for consideration for this," and this is all in Spanish, and my Spanish is decent, but not like business or real estate. I don't know terms in Spanish for like real estate, and certainly not podcast. So I was like trying to explain what a podcast was, and I was like, I got this podcast, no sé, es como un programa de radio, and I was like, it's a radio program, I think you can relate to this, and I was like, it's kind of a big deal, it's like everybody listens to it, it's like the biggest, and he's like, oh yeah, you should do it. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. And so like, so I really tried to explain it to him. I think they ended up getting it eventually, but it is really funny because in my YouTube videos, a lot of the times, like if I'm reading comments or I'm reading like softball questions in my AMA, because all the AMA questions that I get on my channel, they're for real. Like you guys submit those on Instagram. And so a lot of the times it's like really softball questions that someone's like, what sets Host Camp apart from other programs? And then I'm always like, thanks, Mom. I appreciate the softball. And I'll always make comments like that, and then my mom or my dad will be like, Mom didn't ask you that. Why did you say that? And I'm always like, or I'll just like be riffing. I'll be like, thanks a lot, Mom. And yeah, my dad's always like, she didn't say that, son. She didn't mean that mean comment that someone else said on YouTube. So, because like a lot of times people will respond with like, you're the worst YouTuber, I hate your hair and your face is so ugly and you're destroying America. And I'll respond to it with like, love you too, Mom, or something like that, right? And so they're always like, I didn't write that, son, I promise. All right, I think we got time for a couple more questions, but before we do, a quick thank you to today's sponsor, Caliver Beach. If you're looking for a loan in the short-term rental space and you want to close fast, hit up Drew Hittner. He is one of the best loan officers I've ever worked with. Can get you a really great rate, very competitive. And he's actually got this thing called the DSCR Loan Plus, where you can get a DSCR loan, but you actually won't pay a pre-penalty if you ever want to refi out of your higher rate. So if you want to learn more about that, click the link in the description down below. And now back to the video.
All right, great. So I got a quick question about tiny homes. So I'm interested in starting a tiny home community down here in Houston, and I wanted to add some amenities. Have you guys added any type of like pools, hot tubs, or grills? And if so, have you found any challenges like having a grill out, people getting too drunk, and maybe a fire, or having challenges keeping the pool clean?
So the question is, you want to build a tiny home, you're thinking about building a tiny home community, what amenities should someone add to their tiny home, right? So tiny homes are this thing where a lot of people in here have probably thought at some point, I want to build a tiny home and I want to live on it. I want to quit everything and I want to just live in a tiny home. But it's not really practical, right? We got family, we got jobs. It's not like you can just do that. And so tiny homes are a really great thing because you can go and rent one on Airbnb and effectively fulfill that dream for a weekend, right? I think the practicalities of tiny homes once you're in them is they can be really frustrating. Like, you don't have the space, the bathrooms are small and everything like that. So when guests are staying there for an Airbnb, it might be kind of small frustrations, but they're willing to put up with it during the stay of their Airbnb. So it's your job as a tiny home builder to make it as enjoyable of an experience so that people aren't frustrated with the small amount of space, right? So there are a couple ways you can do this. I tend to splurge on a bigger kitchen in tiny homes because people like to cook. There's nothing worse than cooking like on a really tiny, like stovetop or in a tiny countertop. So I try to go really big with my kitchens and make those feel full size so that they are like, whoa, like you always want to impress people with how spacious things are. A bed, that can be on a loft, that can be in a small room because they're just gonna sleep in there. But a kitchen, if you're trying to cook with 2 people in a small kitchen, it's a really frustrating experience. So that's one. 2, the outdoor aspect of it, right? If 4 people are booking a really, really, really tiny home, they're gonna be bumping elbows all day, right? They're gonna wanna hang out outside. So make sure that you have some kind of outdoor component to your tiny home that allows people to hang out outside. And then if you're in an area that's really hot, like Joshua Tree, have some kind of pergola or some kind of shaded area where people can basically like leave if 2 people want to use the restroom, shower, cook, all that kind of stuff, and hang out outside. And then just recently, and I know you do this a lot, but I just added a hot tub to my tiny home too. So I want them to feel like the experience is equally outside as it is inside.
Yeah, that's a great explanation, Rob. I mean, the design aspect, Rob's way better than that than I am. But like the other amenities you can add, like Rob said, we have hot tubs at every single one of our tiny homes. I think here's the thing when it comes to like amenities, right? It's going to vary by the market. In some markets, some amenities will do really well. Other amenities, or some other markets, some amenities won't do as well. For example, in Pigeon Forge, if you have a 5-bedroom cabin, you need to have a game room or a theater room, and you need to have a hot tub. If you don't have those things, you will not compete as a host in that market. In Joshua Tree, maybe a year ago, you didn't need a hot tub as a smaller listing. Now, almost every listing has a hot tub out there as well. So every market kind of has its own trends. But we have hot tubs, we have pergolas, we have fire pits, we have barbecue grills, like anything we can do to build that outdoor space is the thing that we will add. Obviously, the more, the better, but you have to weigh the cost of adding that thing with, okay, what is the increased ADR that I'll get by adding that? And sometimes it's more art than science, but the more amenities, typically, the better.
Yeah. Just to add on to that too, is also think about the upkeep of it. So whenever we had hot tubs, we've had issues with, this was in our larger homes, we're at parties and people leave stuff floating in there and it gets caught up in the filter, or they leave it on a really high setting and then all of a sudden you realize your power bill is like 3 times the price than it's normally, right? But that's also with pools, we've had that issue. But yeah, 100% is based off of I'd say, how do you tell a story, the experience of where the guests are gonna come and enjoy? So if you're doing tiny home community, I'd be focusing on the outdoor experience, just like Rob. We're actually building out a glam site right now with an Airstream. And so the first thing that we're doing is the Airstream's already beautiful in itself, but it is tight even for 2 people. And so the outside experience, we're doing the fire pit, we're doing cowboy, we call them cowboy tubs here, right? Yeah, we got instead of a hot tub, which is way less upkeep, and in the hot weather of Austin, Texas, it's actually gonna be nicer and better used throughout the summer months. So. But I really think it's about the story and the experience that you can create. The amenities, they're adding to that story.
Very good, very good. Okay, I think that's basically it. Now I gotta outro it, so maybe can you like come in right there? Okay, and there you have it. Those are questions from me and my good friends, Tony Robinson and Kai Andrew. Thanks for watching today. If you want to submit your own questions for the next one, feel free to follow me on Instagram. And if this inspired you in some way to start an Airbnb business, consider booking a call with my team over at hostcamp.com. It's a 3-month mentorship program where we literally teach you the blueprint on how to start, optimize, and scale your Airbnb business. We have up to 10 calls a week that are accountability driven to make sure that you're staying on track of your goals. Now, when you sign up for my 3-month mentorship, you also get a year access to the AirDNA US subscription, which is typically $5,700. And spoiler alert, the cost of HostCamp is literally cheaper than it would cost to go to AirDNA and buy it were you to do that. All right, so if you're interested, again, that link is in the description down below, hostcamp.com. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you on the next episode of Rob Built.